Thank you for buying my book on Tai Chi walking. So first of all, we are going to start with ankle circles. So each time you start your practice, I recommend doing ankle circles, knee circles, and hip circles. Anything else depends on how much time you've got or free energy. So if you can't balance on one leg yet, obviously please use a chair or a wall to help you here. Obviously, we will go over balancing on one leg in lots of detail later on. Next one, knee circles. So it's my upper thigh that's rotating. So again, if you can't raise your knee this high, do not worry. So here I'm just showing from the side. So first of all, the ankle. So my goal is to move the ankle and only the ankle, nothing else. And other side. Here I'm showing knee circles. The ankle stays nice and loose, both directions. So now here I'm moving the ankle, not the knee. So I want to make sure I'm either moving the knee or the ankle. And again, I think 20, 30 repetitions, both directions, both legs is absolutely fine. And then hip circles. So I'm trying to go all the way out to the sides, back and front. Almost like there's 4 quadrants. So I'm trying to make sure I'm hitting all of those 4 points. You can time your breathing here. So I recommend inhaling for one circle and then exhale for the other circle. And you can go as fast or quick as you choose. I recommend going slower, just so you can feel the muscles activated as you go around. So next one then, again, if you've got time, I recommend doing all these warm-up exercises, side bends. So the goal is to reach down the leg, and as you get loosened up, try and go a little bit further. Sideways on. So a common compensation here will be that people tend to twist. So we want your shoulders and head in line with the hips. If in doubt, you can do this facing in front of a wall. So that would stop you twisting the shoulders. And again, people typically tighter on one side. Shoulder circles. So I'm doing nice big circles with the shoulders, forwards and back. And again, with all these joint rotations, the number of times you do this is entirely up to you. Just make sure they're nice and smooth, face is relaxed, no grimacing, no breath holding. Next one for the elbows and the wrists. So I'm trying to keep my wrists in contact the whole time. So try and do the best you can. And you want to make these circles nice and fluid. So again, if these are challenging, just go smaller range of motion, go whatever speed you want. And keeping a bit of a light contact here with the wrist is good. So this one really opens up the elbows and the wrists. Moving on, I call these Egyptians. So I'm rotating the forearm up and the other palm up behind me, but I'm going opposite directions. So you'll feel like a bit of a torsion, a twist through the arms. And we've got that opposite term. And then you can add the feet movement into this as well. So hence I call it Egyptians for the obvious look here. It's a very nice one that's opening up the shoulders. And then finally, if anyone's done the Tai Chi lessons, you'll be familiar with this exercise. So we want to make sure we're using the hips and the waist to turn the arms, not just the arms. My arms here are just completely relaxed, and it's the body turning that means my arms move. And my knees go forwards and back, so I don't want my knees buckling in. So here from behind. So there's a slight bend in the elbow. So my hands hit my torso. And again, with this one here, it's just making sure the knees don't buckle inwards. They go forwards and back. So this is me showing it incorrectly. Notice I'm just using my arms. So it's the whole waist that turns, and then the arms just follow. And now I'm doing another variation where I'm actually turning the head and the chest more. So now I'm getting more of a stretch through the spine. So this is a really nice one. I'm trying to look a little bit further behind me each time I do it. And then another variation is I'm pivoting on the ball of the rear foot. So I'm shifting the weight, and then on the rear foot, the ball of the foot, it turns. So these variations are a bit more challenging. don't worry, because as we do more walking exercises later on, you can come back to these and these will feel much easier. So this one here, we want to make sure the knee stays in line with the second big toe. So as you'll see here, I basically don't want my knee buckling in as I'm demonstrating here. So, and there. So my knee buckles in, that just puts extra stress on the knees. And again, we'll be going over this in more detail later on. Next one, I call this Shaolin 4 directions. So I'm turning to the sides, then I'm reaching overhead, and then I'm reaching between the legs. So again, if you've got high blood pressure or things, make sure you're not, be careful when you're doing your forward bend. Here I've just highlighted that I'm just turning, like I'm turning around a central axis point. Good, and the breathe, and then I'm going, if you feel good, go a little bit wider. So I'm exhaling, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. So exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So this one's a really good one. I recommend getting good at this one. It's really good for the spine, opens you up in 4 directions. All these things will help your Tai Chi walking and Tai Chi in the future. And then last one, this is a staple Qigong exercise. So we're using this because it works additional balance and we're opening up the shoulders and the chest. So I'm going to inhale and then exhale as I'm pressing the arms up, still exhaling. And then inhale, exhale. Notice I'm going onto my tiptoes here. So this will work additional balance. So you'll see it from the side. So as I push the arms up, I'm going on to the balls of my feet. So again, if you can't do this, do not worry. Just do the best you can. Or don't worry about going onto your tiptoes. But for those who can, I recommend it. Very nice. So if you've got time, I recommend getting good at those mobility exercises. Next one then, chair squats. So we want the ability to squat down to a chair. And notice here, I've just put a line up. Notice I'm sending my hips back. So my hips are going back to help me sit on the chair. Arms in front makes it a little bit easier because you can counterbalance the weight a bit more. Okay, here I've demonstrated I've just set my knees forward. I didn't push my hips back. So now correct, notice how I'm pushing the hips back to sit on the chair. So it's all about sitting back and down. There we go. And we want it to be a nice controlled lowering. So if you lack the strength to do this, you can raise the chair higher. So here, notice I've just collapsed onto the chair. We want to avoid this. We want to use strength to lower us down. That's where we get the muscular strength gains. So we're slowly lowering. If you can't get up, use someone to help you, or use a rope attached to something or something you can help pull yourself up with and really control that lowering. That's where you're going to get all the gains. And as you get better at it, lower yourself down very slowly and come back up slowly. And again, you can lower the height of the chair to make it more difficult. You can increase the duration of the squat to make it more difficult, to make it easier. Put some cushions on the chair to raise the height. But again, avoid dropping though. So here on, we want to be concerned with the knee alignment. We want the knees to track the second big toe. So here, notice how my knees are buckled in. We want to avoid that. So here I've gone back to correct. So the knees track the second big toe. So if your toes are pointing more outwards, your knee should track wider, i.e. in line with the second big toe on the way down. And that becomes more important when we start doing our Tai Chi walking. So now, Tai Chi walking. First exercise, we are shifting the weights onto one leg. Again, use something for balance here. I've got a chair and I've put a line up here so you can see my body shifts all the way across. That allows me to make the other leg lightless. So here we go, I'm shifting across. If I can lift the heel up, shift the weight across. There we go. Shift the weight across. If you don't shift the weight across, you won't be able to pick the leg up, or you'll start leaning to the side, which I'll show in a minute. When you're okay, start gently lifting the foot off the floor. So again, for most people, if you've not practiced this will be very challenging. Just balancing your leg and lifting one leg up. Most people are shocked how difficult it is. So here that line just showing I want to keep my hips square. So when I shift the weight across, I keep the hips square as I lift the leg up. So we want to avoid this. See, I've just leaned my torso over and lifted the hip. And again here, we want to avoid this. So again, use a mirror to help you do this. Stand in front of a long body length mirror or video yourself. So as your strength and coordination improves, start to lift the leg and bring it forwards a little bit. There we go. And now from the side. So shift the weight, then lift the leg, then back down. So you may have to stay with this exercise for quite a while, depending on where you're starting from. Don't be in a rush. And then you can start to plant the heel down. So we're getting ready to move forwards. There we go. And start with, just bend the knees a little bit. Don't have to go as low as I am here. So here I'm raising my shoulders up. We don't want that. We want the shoulders relaxed. Remember also, we do not want to be breath holding. So make sure you're breathing into your abdomen. Here I'm heighting knee. Can you see how my knee is buckled inwards? I'll go a bit more detail on that in a second. So my knee tracks the second big toe. Here I've put my weight too far forwards, my heel's lifted up. So I'm just going to put up my foot here. I've just highlighted where I want to keep the weight on the foot, the 3 points of contact. So it's an even distribution of weight over the entire foot. That's what you want to feel when you're supporting your weight on the one leg. So now we're going to start to walk. So the weight is on one leg. I go heel and I roll from my heel to my toes. Once the foot is flat, I then transition onto the front leg. And I'm driving off the rear leg to transition the weight onto the forward leg. And same again. So lower myself a little bit, shift the weight over. So again, it's heel, roll the weight forwards once the foot's flat. Then I start shifting weight onto the forward leg, which makes the rear leg light. And that allows us to step the rear leg forwards for the next time. It will be common that you have one leg where the balance is easier than the other. Very normal. So obviously just keep practicing the weaker side. Be aware of all these posture points as described in the book. So head on, we want to try and keep the toes pointing forwards. So I've put two lines here. So it's almost like I want to feel like I'm walking down train tracks. So I'm keeping my feet hip width and ideally toes pointing forwards. So if we don't keep the hips feet width and go narrower, the balance is more challenging. And with the toes pointing more forwards, so here we've got a lovely shot of me looking at my feet. So I'm just highlighting that as I shift the weight across, it makes every leg light. So here I'm shifting the weight onto the left leg. And then you'll notice how that means I can now lift my right leg. There we go. And the knee tracks the second big toe. It's quite a good shot to see that. So I shift the weight because my knee tracks the second big toe. I'll show you this incorrect in a minute. So we shift the weight and then that means I can plant my foot. Now I'm walking forward. Notice how the knee tracks the second big toe. So that foot is weighted. Now the other leg is unweighted. So now I can transition the weight. Now that leg has to weight, not the other leg. Right, so here I'm going to show there's my second big toe. And I've like to now notice my knees buckled in. We want to avoid this. Also, there I push my knee out, which is less common, but still the knee buckling is the main one. So we want to keep this nice alignment. Second big toe. So back to the walking with your stick. So this is where your practice comes in. So we've got quite a few things to think about. And as you get better, we want to make it never holding our breath. Shoulders relaxed, face relaxed. Imagine we're pulling top of the crown of the head towards the ceiling, a piece of string. Okay, hand position. I'm just showing a few different variations. You have your hands behind your back, which I probably recommend when you're starting. We can have the hands in front, lots of different hand positions, but initially keep the hands behind you. Right, moving on, we are moving backwards. So once you get proficient moving forwards, start practicing backwards. So my advice would be to take a smaller step backwards than you think. So here then, we go onto the toes, and then we roll to the heels. It's the opposite. Again, everything's the same in that I've got a weighted leg and an unweighted leg. And a common mistake here will be that people step behind themselves, crossing their legs. So again, you want to imagine you're walking down train tracks. So you want to keep that width of the legs. So this one you might have to keep stopping and starting and looking down at where you've placed your feet. Okay. And all these exercises, if you do take up Qigong or Tai Chi, they help immensely. So there we go. So again, I'm not stepping across myself, I'm stepping a little bit out to the side. And ideally, I'm keeping my toes pointing forwards. Everything nice and smooth. Go whichever speed you want to. So now I'm going to go from behind. So I'm going to go forwards. Keeping a bit of that width with the feet. Again, arms can be in quite a few different positions doing this. Now I'm taking steps. Notice how I'm not stepping across, I've stepped slightly out, so I'm keeping that hip width distance between my feet. That'd be the most common thing, one big mistake, and people flaring their toes out too much. And if your toes flare out a little bit, do not worry. That's pretty normal. Just want to make sure your knees track that second big toe though. Okay. And then moving on. I've got my toes pointing out. So ideally you want the toes pointing in, but note, as long as I have my knees tracking the second big toe, this is fine. So I'd recommend trying to work on the toes facing more forwards, but if not, just make sure your knees don't buckle inwards. So we want to keep that knee tracking the second big toe. And again, this would be if I'm doing squatting, tai chi, qigong, all these principles are exactly the same. So here, it's like I'm walking down a tightrope. I'm going heel to toes. Use the arms out to side if the balance is awkward. I'm going heel to toes. So this one's a good one to work on your balance. Everything's the same. Because we're narrower, the balance is more challenging. And again, I can go in reverse. So this will be ball of foot to heel. And again, whatever speed you like. And again, a lot of people will find that very challenging, more so than they think. Another variation will be we can add a forward lean. So as I step forward now, notice I'm letting my torso incline forward. So there's a straight line from the top of my head to the heel of the rear leg. I'll just put a line up in a second. So, oh no, there we go, a little bit late there. So that's the sort of angle my torso will be at when I step forward. And again, when I step back, again, my torso leans forward, then it goes vertical as I step back. So it's going to be a lean forwards. Then as the legs weightless, they go back to vertical. So this is another good variation because in lots of Qigong and Tai Chi styles, the torso will lean forwards. It won't be completely vertical, depending on the style you are practicing. So it's another really good one to practice. And it keeps a bit of variety in your walking. Again, keeping that nice width to the stepping, making sure we're not breath holding, keeping the hips square the whole time, lower back relaxed. Also, we want to try and not make a sound when we're stepping. We want to be quiet. So one more time. There we go. So that I've just bent at the waist, which is what I want to avoid. So I've got a straight line from the top of the head down for the leg to the heel. There we go. Because a lot of people tend to overdo the forward lean. Right, moving on. We're making it even more challenging. Can you tie your shoelaces up? Give it a go. Can you take your shoe off, put it back on again? We're going to make it even more challenging. There we go. Luckily, I can still do it. Right, making this more challenging. So now then, when we step, we are lifting the knee as high as you comfortably can. This makes the balance requirements far more challenging. And one word actually on that one-legged balance, if you want to make it more challenging, close your eyes. You'll be amazed at how difficult it is standing on one leg with your eyes closed. So I am bringing the knee up as high as I can. And again, I want to make sure I'm still landing that heel very softly. I'm not letting it pound into the floor. So I do need to use my legs a lot more here to control as the foot goes down. As I step back, same thing. Raise the leg as high as you can. And step back. So that the balance demands now go up. And the amount of concentration as well. And you can raise your leg up in a variety of ways. In a minute, I will do it where I've got my foot more inside. So there's quite a few different leg positions you'll have in taichi. So raising the leg up. So there I've just more led with the knee directly up and the foot is relaxed or slightly pointed. Here I've got more the knee flared out. So that's another variation for you to try. So the foot is inside, the knee flares out. There we go. And again, I'm wearing shoes doing this, but I would, if you can, progress to barefoot. So if the flooring allows it, i.e. grass is perfect. Wearing barefoot strengthens your feet and it makes the balancing even more challenging than wearing shoes. And right, next one, we are walking in a circle. So this comes more from Bagua, but it's another really good one to try. And different hand positions, again, hand behind the back. Here I've gone to the hands, so my hands are splayed out here. Shoulders relaxed, a little bit of space underneath the armpits. Okay, I will show a few different hand positions in a minute. Right, and now I'm turning the waist inside in circles. So now I've actually got my waist and my torso turned inside. So I'm actually walking in a circle and I'm trying to face my body into the center of the circle. So I've actually got spiraling going on through the torso and down through the legs. And in a second, I'll do some more challenging hand positions. So this one, this is the line. So my arms here look like a lion's mouth. So after a while of doing this, the arms can get quite fatigued. I think I'm always constantly trying to spiral in to face to the center of the circle. You can go quick, you can go slow. Make sure you're doing both directions though. And then here, an even more challenging hand position. So forward hand facing inwards, rear hand facing outwards. So I've got a spiraling here, an isometric contraction through the arms, an isometric contraction for the torso, and my legs are constantly spiraling as they're walking in. So here I've got lots of spirals going on. And again, you can lower yourself, you can lower the squat, that makes it even more challenging. So with all these, you can obviously lower yourself, which puts more demands on the legs. So, and as you get proficient at all these, you can start combining them into different combinations. So here I'm lifting the leg, putting it back down. I've got my arms relaxed here, then behind you, hands can be behind the back, in front, up to you. Now I've gone to the side. Again, big knee lift. Now I'm going with that forward incline with the torso rather than being vertical. Now I'm stepping backwards with a knee lift. Now I'm going into a bit of circling. Now back to walking forwards. And again, the rear leg drives me forward to transition the weight onto the forward leg. Again, you can do this quick, slow. Personally, I prefer going slower because it puts more demand on the leg and the balance. So actually I'll slow the speed down. So my personal preference would be do most of your practice at a slow speed. We get much more benefit, and I get more thinking time to think what's going on here, the grounding, the breathing. So again, I'm mixing up speeds here. And then if you've got time to round up your practice, a little bit of stretching is good. I'd recommend the calves, the hamstrings, and the hip flexor. So here I'm just stretching the calves, the back of my extended leg. So I'm driving the heel into the floor, and you should feel a stretch on the rear of the leg. Another option is to stand on the bottom some steps. Here I've just got a little bit of wood that I'm standing on, but use some steps or a staircase, and you can do 2 legs or 1 leg. So I was looking to stretch the rear of the leg. So it's quite a good idea now and again because the calves can go a little bit tight. Here I'm doing the hamstrings. So this is the rear of the forward leg that's extended. And notice I want to lean forward at the hips as opposed to round in the back too much. And these, I'd hold these stretches for minimum 30 seconds, up to about 90 seconds. You can go more. Do whatever feels best for your body. And again, there are many different hamstring stretches, so if you know your own, pick which you prefer. And then lastly, hip flexor. This is in front of the hips. So here I've got one of my glutes or butt cheeks on the chair, and I'm extending that left leg here. So I want to feel it in front of the hip. So I'm really lifting the chest and extending that rear leg backwards. I'll show it from a different angle here. So just be careful you don't fall off the chair here. Make sure it's a sturdy chair, and you maybe put a wall on the other side so you feel more stable. I have 2 chairs, one each side. So I'm extending that rear leg backwards, lifting the chest, and you should feel it in the front of the hip of the extended leg. And if you can, you could grab your leg, or your foot, instead. So squeezing these together and then push the hips forwards. There's another way to stretch your quads and hip flexors. And then one last variation, if you're happy on your knees, you can do a kneeling hip flexor stretch. So I'm raising the arms here to increase it. So again, same stretch. Put some padding under your knee so you're not hurting your knee. It's really good. So this is the conclusion. Thank you very much, and I wish you all luck in the future.